Hey, y'all, welcome to another Monday midlife girl chat. I'm so excited we're all here today. I have Madhurima with me, and she is a global stress management facilitator. That's a big, long word.
I know.
Right? But so I'm going to do a stress summit with her not later on this year. It's just in a month here, month and a half. And what I kind of look at is when I'm kind of coming at stress with my perspective in a couple of ways. As midlife women, our hormones, our estrogen, progesterone are dropping, which allows that cortisol, our stress hormone, our fight and flight, to take over. And so we have a harder time dealing with the stress. And certain things that we used to do before cause more stress on our bodies than it used to. So, but then at the summit, I'm going to talk about how stress affects our gut health and how the health of our gut affects how we deal with stress. So I'm going to let Madhurima go ahead, introduce herself, and tell us what she does, and let's go.
Yes, let's go. Let's do it. I'm so excited that you're a part of the conference and the summit. Kim, we're going to have so much fun for all you amazing individuals. Let me start by introducing myself. I am Madhurima. My name goes like a wave, so it's very easy to pronounce. If you imagine it going Madhurima. Madhurima. And I am a global stress management facilitator. As Kim said, it's a mouthful. And I love to support multi-passionate, ambitious dreamers manage their stress and prevent burnout so that they can essentially achieve their goals without their own selves holding them back, which often happens when stress occurs. I am also on a mission to make stress management fun because why not? A lot of us assume that stress is going to be this really annoying, soul sucking, life draining activity, stress management, and rightfully so do we assume that because I have a really funny tale, which I'm gonna like give you in a sentence because it's a really long tale. But I had a doctor quite literally once tell me that the best way to manage stress is to not get stressed out. Hallelujah. I never would have figured that out. I mean, such a big epiphany. Knowing, he said that, knowing where I was coming from and the place where I was studying was known for stressing out kids because that was their way of teaching students. Um, all of that set aside, I kind of understand where we get this idea of stress management being this really annoying thing because we are used to getting annoying advices from people around the world. So I wanted to change that narrative, shift that narrative, make stress management fun, and bring people some cool strategies that they can explore on their own that make stress management fun. Sure, there is that heavy side to stress management, and that's going to be there. That's going to be a part of every healing journey, every process that we go on when it comes to self development. But that doesn't mean that we can't have moments of fun integrated into that entire process, which makes it a bit easier. So that's what I'm all about. The event that we are hosting in May is called Freedom Fiesta, in which Kim is one of the speakers. And once again, in that space, our idea is to destigmatize stress and raise more awareness around it while learning actively or passively from about 25 global experts around the world. So yeah, I'm excited. Let's go. Let's rock and roll. Oh, best part about it, it's free. So like I'm gonna drop a link. I'll share a link with Kim and she will drop it after our conversation here is done into the chat so that you guys can join in as well. Yeah, that's a bit about me. I'll keep talking. So I'm gonna pass the torch right back to Kim so that she can guide this conversation a lot better.
And I love it because I always talk about fun. Like, if we're going to do this, we're going to make it fun. Except, like, lately, I've let stress take over, and I'm not as fun some days as I used to be. And I always love sitting and chatting with you because you do bring out the fun and have all that fun. And like I said, why shouldn't it be fun? Because our attitude changes how we deal with it too. So I just think that's the coolest. So
Yeah,
and I
I
have
agree.
to say, yes, all right. I worked with you to get the program. for stress management, and it's been awesome. And I keep saying I got to go back and rewatch it now as like a client versus me going through it, because there's a whole lot I could learn as I'm trying to deal with my own, because my job, some days my job just gets too overwhelming, too stressful. And I'm one of those that absorbs that stress. I absorb the stress from around me. And some days I just need to just like somehow just like what's your
Mm,
name? Let it go. Let it go.
yeah. Yeah.
Because I don't do that very well. And then and I'm in that age, like I don't have any progesterone, estrogen left anymore. So it's all the cortisol in there running me, and it can run you over sometimes too. Um, so tell everybody a little about what your techniques are for letting go of stress and dealing with it.
That's a really good question and a really big question as well. I'm going to share because it's very varied. I'm not even going to lie. While the techniques I share with my clients are really specific to them, the
Mhm.
techniques that I have is also really varied depending on the mood that I am in, what is stressing me out, what am I feeling on that day. Because sometimes stress is that really numbing stress where it's like I don't even care about anything happening around me. And sometimes stress is the really hyper, you're in the space of like, you got to do something about all of this stuff. So it depends on the situation. But top of mind, what comes for me is simple steps. I think a lot of times stress management relies really heavily on doing simple things really efficiently. For me, the best thing that really helps me is actually getting out of wherever I'm stressed out. So, for example, if I am working in the studio right now and for some reason or another, I am feeling extremely stressed out, but I'm like, nah, I'll deal with it later. Nah, I'll deal with it later. That keeps building up. I will keep getting stressed out. So, the best thing for me to do in a scenario like this is usually to step out of this room and go somewhere different. It can be somewhere different in the house. It can be going out of the house. It can be going for a walk downstairs in the apartment complex. It can be a completely different thing. Depends once again on how I'm feeling that day and how energized I am. But the intent remains the same is to get out of wherever you're experiencing stress from. That shift in environment allows your brain to like go from hyperactivity to being like, oh, hold on. We are no longer in that space where we are quote unquote experiencing danger or where we need to fight for or run away from some kind of a space. So we are not like going into survival mode. We are shifting out of that mode completely. Once I'm out, I try to like just go for a walk. Walks really help me. Or sometimes just dancing around in a different room, that helps me out a lot. Most often than not, it's dancing that I'm doing. Even though walks are superior, sometimes I just prefer to like go to a different room and dance my heart out, doing all kinds of crazy poses. People looking at me would potentially think that I am, what do you say it? Possessed. That's the word. I'm possessed. People are like, what is happening with her? Don't question it. So I'm usually dancing around, trying to get that energy buildup out of my body. I know a lot of times people hear exercise, but it's not even exercise, it's just movement of some sort so that it doesn't settle into the bones. Once we are in that space where I feel like, oh, I've gotten most of it out of my body and I can feel myself relax, I can feel the tension leave my body. That's when I just sit down for a few minutes, take some deep breaths, try to watch something different, like a favorite show of mine, or just listen to a different song and a song from one of my favorite bands, if you will. Once I am in a much more calmer state and I feel like I'm no longer acting from survival mode, that's when I start to explore and look for tips and strategies that might help me in my present situation. So, what is stressing me out? What is the end goal that I need to reach? What is the next best step that I can take that will help me prevent going into the spiral, but also help me get started on the journey so that I'm not just stuck in that space. So most of the time that is one of my favorite strategies, go to strategies, get out of wherever I'm stressed out, have some movement, spend some time just relaxing and calming myself down, and then think of the next logical steps to move forward.
So, you know, yes. You talked about exercise, and I love that you said that because, we're told, yeah, exercise. And especially like in this age when we're getting some of that extra around the middle there, we really want to exercise and it's not coming up, and we exercise and we exercise and we work harder and harder. That's a stress on the body. Like, we don't think about it, but that's a stress on the body. Stress affects how we digest and how we hang on to fat. Oh, I kind of went off the subject a little bit there.
No, you're right there. You're right there. You're right there. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So it affects, because in fight or flight, our stress mode, our digestion shuts down, like the what do I want to say? The least crucial parts of us shut down because
Yep.
like our stress comes back from caveman days when they were trying to run from that saber-toothed tiger, right? And so like what doesn't need to be functioning shuts down so we can run that tiger and keep ourselves safe. So that's what our bodies, whether you are exercising heavily or you're not eating enough food because you want to lose this weight, or you're working on this like speech you have to give in front of a big crowd and it's stressing you out, or you're late for work but you're stuck in the traffic jam, all of that is the same response as running from that saber-tooth tiger, which just like to me is so crazy. And you don't think about, because I know those days when you sit in traffic and you're like, come on, just we gotta get there.
Yeah.
That's stress. And
Yeah.
sometimes you can't necessarily walk away, especially if you're on the highway stuck in the traffic jam. But yeah, definitely finding, like you said, those little ways to calm yourself and come back. And that's, I think a lot of it is you need to just come back to the here and now. One of my favorite sayings is be here now, be here now, be here now. Because me sitting and stressing about the traffic not moving is not going to make the traffic move. So
yeah.
So what are some of your little tips that you give besides walking out? Like once you get out of that situation, what are the things, or if you can't get out of that situation, what
That's
are
a good question.
your
I think I know this is going to sound really weird, but for me, if I can't get out of a specific situation, oftentimes what helps me is imagining a different place, imagining that I'm in a different place. So it's a quick visualization essentially that I okay, I'm gonna share the entire strategy because why not? And you guys are amazing. So here's the strategy, right? I like to think of, for example, anywhere around your house, what is your corner of peace? A corner of peace is where you feel, once again, completely at peace. At this can be your garden, this can be the park near your home, this can be if you have a beach, if you're lucky enough, like Kim, you potentially have a beach near your home, right? So what we're going to be doing is for 2 weeks, every single day, we will try our best to be there. To go to a beach, for example, I'm going to give the example of a beach because that's my corner of peace. You go to the beach and spend, let's say, 15-20 minutes, not more than that. You visit the beach, you sit down, and all you're going to do is observe everything around you. So you're going to observe use your five sensations, if you will. You're going to notice the smell of the ocean. You're going to notice, if you're sitting down on the sand, you're going to notice how the sand particles literally roll off of your hand, and how you sink into the space but you're still relaxed, how the waves lap on your feet and kind of go back. You're going to look at the ocean and its vastness. You're going to look at the sky. You're going to hear maybe kids chattering, couples playing in the background or running after each other, or dogs barking, whatever you want to notice. Notice all of these things. You're going to observe everything. Maybe you had a cold drink before you came to the beach, or maybe there are street vendors selling something. So you're going to utilize all of these things. What can you smell? What can you see? What can you touch? What can you hear? You're going to use all of these senses to essentially paste that particular image into your mind, that sensation, the feelings. You're going to absorb every single thing from that particular experience. What you're going to do next is, after you stay in the beach, you come back home, and then you're going to imagine yourself being back at the beach. So for 2 weeks, all you're going to be doing is going to the beach, sitting there for a while, coming back home, and imagining you're at the beach once more. This strengthens the image, this strengthens the idea behind being in that space. After that point in time, essentially all you have to do is, every time you experience stress, just close your eyes and think of yourself back at your corner of peace. Right? It doesn't, once again, it's just getting into the nitty-gritty of that experience. And oftentimes, like when I am stressed out and I can't think of a way out, all I have to do is close my eyes and think of myself being back at the ocean. That's my corner of peace. And just, even if I close my eyes now, I can feel all of those things, right? Like the sand and the waves and the ocean and the beautiful surroundings and the abundance I felt when I was there, the feelings I experienced when I was there. That's one of the strategies, and that's one of my best strategies. I call it the or meditation. It's just absorb everything and then keep repeating it. When you feel like you can't imagine being at your corner of peace again, just go back. Once again, it doesn't has to be a beach. It can be literally anything. It can be you sitting at your home and hugging your dogs, or you sitting and holding your child close to you, you being with your partner and holding their hands as you watch a movie. It can be quite literally anything. Doesn't need to be my corner of peace. It's your corner of peace, anywhere you feel completely at peace at. So that is one of my tips, my favorite tips, if you will, of if I can't actually step away from the surrounding, all I need to do is close my eyes, take a few deep breaths, and imagine that I'm back there. And I feel the tension automatically relax. It helps me step out of the survival mode, quote unquote, and step into a space of, okay, what can I change in the situation? I can't move the traffic faster. That's not in my hands. For example, before starting our session today, I spent quite literally 5 to 10 minutes just working with the tech difficulties, which happens. Earlier, if this was when I first started as a coach, I would be freaking the hell out. I would be like apologizing to you 20 times in a row as soon as I came on. Now I know, okay, yeah, I'm going to apologize, but I also understand that it's not in my hands. I'm doing my best here as much as I can. And I assume that the person on the other side understands as well that sometimes tech, the
Technology.
goblins in the wall, like you said, it happens. So you just got to deal with it. You just have to think about, what can I do about the situation? What can I actually control? If I can't move the traffic faster, I can't control it. So I'm just gonna let it go. I'm just gonna focus on doing something that I can control. Oh, I had to plan out my vacation. Oh, I always wanted to watch this movie. I have net in my phone. I'm gonna sit and watch this movie or read this book that I potentially have in my car or something along those lines. You do the best you can to deal with the situation, because you know that what is in your control is absolutely in your control, and what is not in your control is not in your control. You can't do anything about it. No matter how much you want to influence it, you most of the times you can't really influence it. So you got to do the best you can to create your own peace, to step into a space of relaxation and calm, because the entire world is burning. The entire world is burning, love. You have to be the person who's like, okay, I can't stop the fire, so I'm at least gonna bring water along and try to extinguish the flames. I can't stop it at the origin, but I can deal with the damage here. I can try to help the people here. That's all you can do. So yeah, that
So,
was a long and lengthy answer. I'm gonna.
no, that's great. I love it. It's so funny. You were talking about the beach and, going and feeling it so you can feel it later. The last time I went to the beach at the end of the summer, beginning of the fall, whenever I went, I stood right at the end or edge of the lake, and I just turned on my video, and I, for 2 or 3 or 4 minutes, just stood there. And all the tourists at that point were gone, so we didn't have all the touristy noises. And I just, as the waves were coming in, I just let it record that sound. And so on those days that I'm struggling, especially since I do not like our dark, dreary winters, I just turn it on my computer and just let it play on a loop, listening to the lake. And that brings me
Yeah.
back to center because that's my happy place, you know? And at my job, I got a poster, a big poster, and it looks like you're looking out a window onto the beach. And so when I'm like struggling at work, I just take my computer stand and I turn around and I can look out my window at the beach while I'm working. So find ways to get myself to the beach one way or another. But
Yeah.
in a Michigan winter, you cannot do that unless you want to freeze. So
Yeah. No, I get that. That is also a really good idea because I sometimes, it's been it's about to be an year since I was last at the beach. I think in a couple of months it will be an year. But I can still think of that. And one of the reasons behind that is I took a lot of videos there, just of the ocean and the waves and all of that stuff. And sometimes just looking at the video instantly brings me back to that space. And that is a very clever idea, is just have recordings of stuff around you um, for whenever you need it. I mean, all of us have phones, unless your phone has died, in which case the meditation also helps.
yes, yes. Yeah, and I just always need that grounding. And so that just, even though I can't be sitting there putting my feet literally into the sand,
Yeah.
I'm not at this moment literally touching the earth, because the ground is frozen. Although my naturopath suggested, she's like, just go out in your yard and just lay on the yard right now, even. And I'm just like, I might go
Yeah.
the tree outside and just get absorb that
Yeah.
energy. And I'm definitely not taking my shoes off to put my feet on the ground. But trying to do like that grounding meditation, the roots going down into the earth and wrapping around the core while I'm listening to that is definitely a soothing, bringing me back into the present too.
Yeah. I agree. That's a beautiful sensation and a feeling. I try not to hug the trees around here because sometimes we have like ants, so we have to be like very careful of hugging the trees. But I get the vibe. So most of the time, my favorite is just sitting down and putting my feet on the grass and just
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
that's magical.
Yeah. Yeah. And I talk about a couple of things like you talked about, what can you see, smell, hear, as you're standing here at this moment.
Mhm.
I do the calm, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in,
Mm,
doing that. Because
yeah,
sometimes just counting to 10 does not get you there. Whereas
I feel that. Yeah,
you have this sensation going on and actually feeling
yeah.
touch there and just doing that over and over, or sometimes just breathing, deep breathing.
Yeah. Even there is this really cool technique where all you have to do is take your forefinger and your thumb together. You gotta rub it very slowly. As you do that, you focus in on the texture, the feeling between these two fingers. And as you keep doing it and as you bring your focus in there, a lot of times you can feel the ridges of these two fingers kind of almost catching onto each other, holding onto each other, stopping each other, almost kind of creating this friction. The more you do this, the more your attention goes here, it disappears from all the craziness because you're focused completely on these two things, like the feeling of the fingers catching within each other and how it feels and how there is that friction. Sometimes you can do just this. Sometimes I've had people do this as well, like put their entire palms together and just slowly rub them together, and you can almost feel that friction almost like catch onto each other, your fingers catch onto each other, which is once again a really cool technique, just brings you right back into the present, into the now, which is really helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. That's, I think a lot of times it's just finding those techniques to bring you into this moment. And some of the things I talk about is sometimes I'm very good at this. I plan for every situation that is going to happen and how that situation will be resolved. We're going on a plane. This could happen, that could happen. How are we going to solve that? Do they ever happen? Heck no. But if I'm going to start to stress about, like, what if we miss our plane, or what if I just got to come back. And that's why I said, be here now, just be here now, and finding, the calm palm and the rubbing,
Mhm.
type of thing. Cause I can just feel, I'm like, that is soothing there. Which reminded me though, what? And I forget even what, like in the 80s, growing up in the 80s, if somebody said something whining, you're like, oh, let me play a song. um, so yeah, that's kind of always a big thing.
Yeah.
Getting-
Yeah, I hear that, and I kind of resonate with what you are sharing because I am one of the people. I used to over plan every single thing, every goddamn single thing. It was crazy in my head. I'm not even gonna lie. But what has also helped me is going down this route of, okay, will planning out, maybe not into the very deepest, darkest details and tiniest, minutest details, will that help me? Or will having a good enough idea of what's going to happen next help me? What that does for me is I can essentially be like, instead of stop, oftentimes this is what happens. A part of you is trying to plan everything out. The other part of you is like, no, we gotta be better. It shouldn't happen. And all it's doing is creating friction.
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, you are going to end up planning things out. You are going to do that. So we reach a compromise, or I at least created this space where I reached a compromise of, let's make a plan, put the time milestones in there of, okay, this is the biggest moment that's going to happen. If I'm going to go from here to here, I'm going to have to book a cab, I'm going to get on the plane, I'm going to have to reach that particular spot, and then I'm going to do this. Okay, if I can't find a cab, what is the next best thing I can do? But I don't go into the very deepest details. I just go, okay, it's either going to be a cab, auto, or a bike. Those are my three best options. I know for a fact I'm going to find one of those things. Uh, Based on the time zone I am in and the time space that I am in, it's going to happen that I will find something on here. If I can't find it, I have apps. So I can go on a different app and find something here. That's not going to be a problem. My flight is going to come. It's not going to disappear on me. So I just have to get there, maybe an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours ahead of time, but I just have to get there. Cool. The next thing I'm going to do is reach there. Okay, once again, auto, cab, bike. These are my three options, or buses sometimes. That's going to be the best options. Those are my four options. I'm going to go that, do that, reach there. That's it. So, what that helps me do is not really get deep into the thing, but I also plan it out. So, I'm not stopping myself. That has helped me out a lot. Once again, not giving unsolicited advice. I'm so sorry if it felt like
No,
that.
that's
Uh, but yeah.
well, it's so funny because, like I said, I have to plan every detail out. What could happen, how we would solve it. My husband was such a go with the flow. He's like, "What are you expecting this to happen? Are you trying to make this happen? What?" And I'd be like, "No, but if it happens, we got to know what we're gonna do." He's just like, we,
I
I
feel
think
that.
maybe balanced each other a little bit because I could get him moving a little and he could try to bring me back to center. And
I love it. Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Freedom Festival and what, right? Freedom Fiesta.
Yes, Tam.
Fiesta. Um, and I mean, I know I'm speaking and you have all these people. So tell me a little bit about what exactly is involved in this.
Wait, can you repeat the last part? I lost you there.
Sorry, what's involved in this? What are people gonna see? What's happening?
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, so tell us about Freedom Fiesta.
For sure. So, Freedom Fiesta is going to be happening on the 17th and 18th of May this year. Our goal is to get it across to about 5,000 attendees so that The end intention is to raise more awareness around stress and kind of destigmatize the entire concept. A lot of times people still have this mentality that stress only happens to those who are weak to it. So, oh, you're weak minded, that's why you're experiencing stress. No, sometimes life happens. And
Mhm.
yes, I can deal with it, but also life happens. So, we are trying to destigmatize it and raise more awareness around it, as well as learn once again, actively or passively, from 25 experts, one of which are you. Actively learn from these people on what can we do to manage our stress. The way that this entire conference is set up, and it's global, it's virtual, so you can watch it from anywhere you want to watch it. The way that this conference is set up is that we are going to do it in bite-sized pieces. So we're going to have a speaker speak for 15 minutes, another speaker speak for 5, another speaker speak for 15, and then we're going to take a break, and then the block repeats itself. We have split it into 2 days to ensure that attendees actually get all that they can, but also don't feel overwhelmed. That also happens. You are trying to learn, but it's like, I don't remember anything that happened from
And we're
that entire
stressing you out
experience.
doing it.
Yeah, exactly. So we kind of split it into 2 days to ensure that people get the most out of this experience. We have a bunch of topics. We have people talking about breath work, about EFT tapping. We have people touching in on maternal overwhelm and essentially periods and menopause and all of that stuff. But we also have gut health. We have leadership support. We have what do you do to kind of manage your stress. Uh, with the use of essential oils. We have a bunch of topics in there, quite literally pulling from all these people around the world to explore and give you tips that you can walk away with. But not just that, but also introduce you to experts who can help you with specific scenarios. So, for example, people who finish watching the entire fiesta know that, okay, if I need support with gut health, I am going to go to Kim because she was one of the experts. She shared so much knowledge. So, you walk away with an introduction to so many amazing experts that can support you on this journey. They are going to be sharing free gifts with you. And best part of it, it's free. You essentially get access to this course, to the entire conference for free. And at the end of it all, if, for example, the time zone doesn't match, you're like, oh, I want to attend, but I can't because I'm sleeping at this point in time. Understandable time zones, you all. So we're going to keep that recording live for 48 hours before we remove it from the net. So you can watch it at any point in time between those 48 hours. Hell, if you want lifetime access to the recordings, we are also giving VIP passes to people that can then access those amazing, the entire knowledge essentially for lifetime. And you get a VIP bundle from all the people, all the experts joining you. That's on a price tag, though. That's at $99. It's amazing. You get a fireside chat with all these amazing speakers on 19th of May, which is a Monday. So you get a bunch of resources if you pay for it. If you still, if you're like, nah, I don't want to pay for it, I want to go free, you still get a lot of things. You walk away with so many cool uh, tools and techniques and tips. And these people are gonna spend 15 minutes or 5 minutes literally sharing the dopest, most powerful sources of knowledge with you. We are not gonna go into story mode. While I love story mode, oftentimes we kind of miss the entire point of what the other person is trying to share. We are trying to ensure that you walk away with knowledge, you walk away with tangible tips that you can actually start implementing and seeing the difference in your life. That's the idea behind Freedom Fiesta. That's the intention. That's the vibe that we are trying to create in the spaces. Just creating ourselves as a stand mark. If you want to learn about stress management, join Freedom Fiesta. That's the idea. Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting because I get the 15-minute time slot, which is good because Kim's mind wanders in 20 different directions at once. And so this, like, I've got 15 minutes to get my thing in. And so that's going to keep me on track because, like, if you throw me on one of these Monday night lives alone, y'all sometimes don't know what you're gonna get because I just like whatever comes out. Um, so I'm just excited to learn all of this information. Um, because there's so much and like, yeah, different, I don't know, I don't know where, other parts of the world, but I know here in the United States, it's like we thrive on stress. And, the more stress I have in my life, the better I am, right? It's not good because then when you hit, I mean, it's not good any which way, but as you
Yeah.
start hitting a certain age, it's really going to start wearing on you. And like I said, stress causes inflammation. You get inflammation in the gut.
Yeah.
That's not good. And our gut is where our health starts from. It's our immune system. It's where the serotonin is made. There's other hormones in there. So then you get your good bacteria, your bad bacteria. And we don't want to improve, increase the amount of bad bacteria. So getting rid of that stress will definitely, and you get those stress management tips. And that's part of what my program involves. We have my lovely little program that's going to be a benefit of being on this in my program is to learn stress management. Because I can only do so much at once and I'm not that stress expert. But also, we know if your gut is not healthy, we just don't deal with life as well as we should or could, I guess I could say. We just don't deal with it because those
Yeah.
good, bad gut bugs, as I say.
Give me 1 second. I'm so sorry. My camera died. Give me
Yes.
1 second. I'm so sorry. Yep.
Okay.
I knew it was going to happen. So I'm glad I charged my battery. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
You're not stressing. You're getting. I think so. Yeah.
Okay. So we had a little glitch there for a second. So I guess I was talking about affecting the balance of our good versus bad. And I just use that for simple terms because sometimes the way it's said, because we need some of those bad bugs to be in there to balance out it all. So we need that better balance of the good versus the bad type of thing. Because there is this two-way access gut to brain. And so if things aren't healthy down here, it goes up to here. And then you get all that going on up there and it affects stress, it affects depression. So it just like causes a whole lot of stuff going on too. So
yeah. No, I agree. I think that's the thing about stress is I recognize the fact of a lot of us work really well under stress, but what we don't realize is that's good. I still create moments of good stress, once again, good stress where I know that I can immediately get out of it if I need to get out of it. Like I am the one in control. I'm creating those moments of pressure for me able to work a lot more efficiently because if that's not existing, I'm not really motivated enough to work. That's a whole story. I can go down that trail. I'm pretty much like you, Kim. I can keep talking and talking for hours, which is why I was like, this is a good idea having the 15 and 5 minute slots because I'm going to stay on track. I myself have a 5 minute slot there. So I know that I'm going to stay on track and not go down entire countries and continents. But see, I'm doing it again. I'm doing it again. But essentially, I think that's the thing. A lot of people don't recognize how to create those moments in time because if you're not careful with it, it can very easily slip into the space of irritation and fatigue showing up. It can, if it continues, if you are in that space for a really long duration of time, that turns into burnout, which is a bad zone. We don't want to be there. I've been there. It took me 2.5 years to get out of it. I'm telling you all, you don't want to be in that space. You do not want to wait for burnout to occur for you to be able to take care of it. Right? It's not fantasy dream come true where you're like, I'll deal with it when we reach there. No, please don't reach there. And if you're there, don't worry, you get out of it. I got out of it. So having said that, you need to be in charge. If you work under stress, you need to be the one in charge of how much amount of stress you're putting in and how quickly are you dispersing of that stress the minute you're done with your work. Can you do that? If you can't do that, maybe you need to kind of rein it back in until you can, because you need to be able to deal with it. Stress, like Kim was saying, stops a lot of the functions in our body. It's meant for survival. It's not a joke. It's not meant as a we're gonna fight someone, or we're gonna run away from someone, or we're gonna quote unquote play dead. No, it's meant so that we can survive scenarios. Obviously, in today's day and age, like Kim was mentioning at the start of this interview, we do not have our stresses more often than not revolve around deadlines and speaking on the stage, talking to people, doing a project, going on a meeting, leading your teams. It can be so many different things, or it can be as simple as planning a feast, uh, doing random things that you have to do in your day-to-day life. But it stops so many systems inside your body, and it hyper drives so many other systems. You have your breath going really shallow, so you're not breathing really deep. You have your heart pumping at a really fast pace. You keep at it, your blood pressure that went up when you were stressed, which is important for survival because your oxygen needs to reach every part of your system. Your blood pressure is going to remain high, and that is going to affect you in the long term. Our body is meant to deal with stress in short bursts of time, not long bursts of time. You keep at it, your entire system breaks down over time. At the start you might not notice it, or you might just ignore it, but over time you start to notice these signs where you have really bad ones like heart attacks and strokes and all of these really difficult scenarios. And you have maybe like, oh, I have diarrhea today. Why did that happen? No idea. Oh, I tend to fall sick a lot. Why did that happen? No idea. That's no, there is an idea. Stress is behind that. Stress is, I don't want to say it's a big bad enemy because it's there for our survival, but it can become a big bad enemy if we don't control it. It's meant for our survival and only for our survival. 90% of the time, we are not playing a game of life and death, even though it feels like it. I know it feels like it, but we are not playing a game of life and death. You miss a meeting, no one's going to probably burn you at the stakes for it. You know, it's not that bad. So, yeah, I'm not gonna go down that road right now because once again, I can keep talking. So I'm gonna pass it back to you, Kim.
Okay, well, we probably should wrap this up because I think we went way long here, which I really appreciate. I know both of us could just, because our chats that wouldn't, if we even just get on and start chatting, we can be on for a really, really long time. So let's wrap it up here. So our whole big deal is stress, and it's so funny how I feel like some of my last few episodes, I've in some way or another talked with somebody where we talk about stress, and I think it helps to lead up to what we're talking about today too. But it's huge, and yeah, I'm gonna keep jabbering. So I want to thank you all for tuning in. If you hung out with us all the way, thank you. If you caught us in mid conversation, go back and watch the beginning. I think this has been an awesome, awesome conversation. I want to thank you for being here with me tonight. And
Thank you for inviting me.
you're welcome. If you want information on the
Freedom Fiesta.
Fiesta, I want to say festival Fiesta.
I mean, it makes sense. It's a festival, so
Right.
it's okay. You're right there with the emotion of it all.
Well, me speaking Spanish, you think Fiesta would just come up. But if you want information on it, we'll have it down here in the comments so that you can check them out. Send me a DM if you need them, and I'll have put all the good stuff in the comments. So thanks for following with us, and I will see y'all next week.
See you all next week. Thank you so much, Kim. Let's go.